Hello and welcome to Talking Automotive with Mark and John. My name's John Sinclair and my co-host Mark Padavestra.
Hi John, today we've got Sud from Spot AI, a technology that takes video surveillance to a whole new level, which is not video surveillance, it's actually video intelligence.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating discussion and he goes into a lot of detail about personal privacy and how you counter that, and then also what value we can get out of all that video that we have available to us and how we can help improve the business. So really great listen. So let's jump into it.
If you like what you hear today, remember to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, iTunes and Spotify. We've got our website autocurrents.com and follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook.
With 30 years' experience in auto logistics and state-of-the-art locations in 5 major Australian cities, Precar Fleet Services is an independent division of Precar Services, offering specialty fleet fit-outs for commercial applications ranging from simple tray and tow bar fitments to fully bespoke service body and accessory installation. With quality-assured safety, compliance and standardisation of vehicle builds, Precar Fleet Services are a premier all-in-one solutions provider for commercial vehicle fleet operators, leasing companies, and original equipment manufacturers. For further information on how Precar Fleet Services can assist in solving your commercial vehicle fit-out needs, please visit precar.com.au and click on the link to Fleet Services.
Modera is a cloud-based, AI-powered CRM and retail platform aimed at digitizing the physical process of selling a car. The Modera platform sits between existing automotive dealer and OEM systems, providing car dealerships a quick and easy shift to digital ways of working, all done entirely digitally and with total ease.
Hi Sud, welcome to the show. Great to have you on. Maybe to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about Spot AI and what you do and what is video intelligence?
Sure. John, Mark, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to chat. So Spot AI, we're based in the San Francisco Bay Area in the United States. We build video intelligence software for businesses. So, what video intelligence is it's a tool for every user and every business to make decisions based on what they see rather than what they hear. Most people think about video footage and cameras for just security. But businesses everywhere are trying to use that video footage to make better decisions and improve how they operate, right? But they've actually never had the tools to do that. Video surveillance systems that businesses use weren't built for the modern user of video. Accessing video is hard. Finding and collaborating with video is difficult. And if you think about video, it's a very valuable data source and it's a very big chunk of enterprise or business data. And we're building products to unlock that. Our first product is an AI camera system that works with any cameras that the customer already has. It provides them a modern dashboard with AI features to see, search, and share video. And it's a system that's entirely set and forget, right? So once you install it, it just works. Customers have been using us over the last few years to improve the experience of their customers, improve throughput and make more money, improve the efficiency of their operations, and improve safety and security. We work with customers across 17 verticals and we're deployed at thousands of locations across the United States.
Now, so I'm just getting understanding. So we've got lots of cameras out there now. Video surveillance has exploded over the last 20 years. Camera technology has come right down. It used to be very expensive to put cameras everywhere. Now most businesses have cameras on every corner, which is a great thing. So you've now, correct me if I'm wrong, so you've got an AI solution for those cameras or similar to be able to now take an observation and turning it into meaningful data. So how is that different from a surveillance versus intelligence? What are the mechanics of that?
Yeah, so let me explain to you a bit about, go one level deeper onto video intelligence, right? Video intelligence has a couple of parts. A part of it is artificial intelligence, right? To be able to surface the right clips, but that's only one part of video intelligence. The other part of video intelligence is actually using that video and collaborating with people to then make better decisions. Let's say, for example, you're using a video clip to train a salesperson on how to interact with the customer, right? It's about not just finding that video, it's also about working with them to help them, do better with the next customer. So it comprises of like all those pieces. And when we think about the difference between surveillance and intelligence, it's mainly this. What characterizes video surveillance is asymmetric access. You only have one person or your bosses who, have access to that video and they're looking over their employees, right? And that's what creates that power dynamic that's often unhealthy. What we see with intelligence and the difference between surveillance and intelligence is that intelligence is something that everybody has access to. When we install our systems into at customer locations, it's not just limited to IP or security, but everybody right down to the service like manager, to the technician on the floor, to the salesperson, to the owner, all have access to the video footage. And they're collaborating with it and they're searching for it and they're using it in their day-to-day decision-making processes. And that's where it becomes it goes beyond being a tool to like spy on people, but a tool to help everybody in the organization become more efficient and operate better.
So are there any issues around privacy with the data and the footage?
The traditional approach to video data, right, or to any kind of software more recently has been you have all the data stored somewhere in the cloud, right? It's stored in AWS or it's stored in Google. One of the things that a fundamental technology advantage that we've leveraged, which takes care of privacy, is actually this thing called edge computing. So with edge computing, what we do is that we actually crunch all the data and all the video and we store it right on the customer's location. So your video actually never leaves your site. And in fact, when you view it remotely, it's not touching a public cloud unless you want it to, right? So your data is yours, and we call that private by design. The second piece is, how do you make sure that when data is moving, it's secure? So we encrypt the data at location, and it's also encrypted in transit. And the third, which is most important, is strong access control, right? Customers decide who they want video to have access to their videos, right? Is it just some people in their organization? Even, for example, when we as a company, when we are providing support to our customers, we don't have access to their video until they actively give it to us. So it's also about setting the right access management protocols to make sure that your data is yours, and it always will be.
So I'm thinking just from a novice perspective. So if I'm a dealer principal and I'm looking at this data, I may have access to it all, but I'll delegate different levels of access for different areas, just like I would delegate access to my management system for people to operate with certain areas. So that's how security is maintained and privacy is maintained.
Exactly. And then you may give different people access. You may say some people just need access to seeing the live footage. Some people can go back and search for footage, right? Some people can access the stored footage. Some people have access to different features. So we have a very robust permission management system that allows you as a company to define exactly what you want to, what access you want to give into. So it's entirely your choice and it's fully in your control.
Now, so can you tell us a little more about some of the benefits that people might have outside of the RT in the business? What sort of benefits can people get from the system?
Yeah, so in the automotive space, we work with a bunch of different companies. We work with auto dealerships, we work with car washes, we work with car repair, we work with auction houses, we work with manufacturing. So really across the gamut. And what we find is customers are looking to use video footage for 4 different purposes. The first is improving their customers' experience. So, for example, we have our dealership customers that use the video of customers walking around on the sales floor, right, to coach salespeople on how to engage with their customers. they use license plate recognition to figure out who are the regular folks coming in, and is there somebody that's important that we need to be paying particular attention to. They use that's one main use case, right? The second use case that customers have is actually improving efficiency. So we work with again, a very large car dealership in the US where they actually use the video in their service departments. So we have features which allow them to figure out how long has a car been sitting in a service bay. So they now know if a car has been sitting beyond the time it was supposed to be there, so that they can then circle back with their customers and tell them if their service job is getting delayed, or it's probably going to take them more time than they thought. They use that information to then train service technicians on different processes so that they can actually improve the throughput of the service centers and make more money. A third type of use case that customers use it for is actually customer claims and safety incidents. So let's say you have a workers' compensation claim where somebody actually got hurt in a service center. How do you very quickly pull up the video, defend yourself against a spurious claim, or figure out exactly what happened to make sure the next person doesn't get injured? Or if you get a claim from a customer, how do you respond to them really quickly with concrete proof that you didn't scratch their car? Right. And then, put them at ease and give them a really good experience. So, across those, we find that, in each of those sub verticals, we have all these customers, and depending on the size of the operation or the scale, they have different use cases. But again, typically, because of how widely it's used in an organization, most companies have, I'd say, all of those use cases. And as we are building the product and as we are sort of scaling more, we're seeing all these unique ways in which people want to keep using video for more and more things.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting for me, so there's that whole ability to monitor the time it takes for each repair job. Because if you know what the repair job is, the standard time for operation, you can very quickly, because normally you're reliant on the technician to come back and clock the job card or whatever, whereas this way you can just the car's been standing there for that long and what's happened on it. So I think it's very fascinating.
That's right. And what's interesting also is that a service manager is typically very occupied with a bunch of different bays, right, bunch of different vehicles, and depending on the scale of the service operation, it's you can't be everywhere at the same time. So, what this feature does, for example, is allow these customers to get proactive alerts to know that a car has been in a bay for a long time. So then they can, quickly check in and then go and work with the technician on speeding things up.
And also from a quality perspective, you can see if the repair's taking longer, and therefore the quality assurance validation of, say, the road test afterwards, if the job is a 2-hour job and the vehicle's been sitting there for 1 hour and 55 minutes, it means there's only a 5-minute road test, but really there needs to be a 10-minute road test. So then you could see that there's been a corner cut in the validation process, which would be a red flag to say, hang on, this particular technician is taking longer, but they're making up their times by not doing proper road tests. So you get the difference in quality between techs.
That's exactly right. And another way in which we see customers using it is, when you're dropping off a vehicle for a job, right? Sometimes the vehicle is, technicians are busy with many things. Sometimes the vehicle is just parked in the sort of the drive-in to the service bay, and it's not being attended to, right? So you may find that you have delays in jobs because nobody attended the vehicle fast enough. And then that creates an opportunity for process improvement. Which then, a dealership or a multi-location dealership particularly can then, use learnings from one location to spread to all of theirs. And, we have this other ability where customers can compare all these data points across all their locations and all their technicians and all their bays. So you can figure out who's doing better and then what can you learn from them.
How does it turn the data from video into some sort of dashboard? Does it take the visual and using AI to create a dashboard with information? How does that work?
So there are a couple of things, right? One part of it is just giving customers, really, really easy access to it and, allowing them to see, search, and share the video. And then the intelligence layer above it, it comes back to this technology that that we're building. It's called edge computing. So what we do is we the camera system has a small server that basically plugs into the customer's camera system or whatever cameras they have. On that server, we actually we have graphics processing units, GPUs, that crunch the video at source and use different AI models to analyze what's actually happening in the video. And then we take that analysis and then we expose that in the form of dashboards that customers can see from anywhere. And all that is being done in that box at a customer's location.
No, because the other thing which I was thinking of just off the top of my head is you could give automatic notifications to the customer. Your customer's now been attended to, it's now in the wash bay, it's now in the test drive process, it's now finished. So it could automatically let the customer know where it is in the process of being serviced. And you could measure, then you could relate all that AR back to standard job times or whatever. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that can come out of that to improve the business.
Absolutely, right. What we can do is we can detect license plates. So the car and you can connect that to which customer that belongs to, right? And then you can give them those alerts. And in fact, we have some customers in particularly in on the manufacturing side where they give their customers the live video footage, right? And so that they can actually see what's going on. And then particularly if you have a large shipment going out, right? Or if you want them to see a full video of their own service or like the car going to the car wash, right? Customers want that visibility and that data. So one is sharing the information with them. It's also sharing the video clips so that they know what's actually happening with their vehicles or with their property.
I'm amazed. So how hard is it for them to search? Like say you've got a retrospective situation where a customer says, my car's been damaged. I've been in for service. I've got a scratch on my front fender. I believe your service technicians did this. So customer walks into the service department. How hard is it for the service manager to retrieve that information and show that customer?
That's a great question. So with a traditional surveillance system, that would be extremely hard. The reason is that surveillance products don't have a lot of the they were not built for how modern users use videos. So what we see with customers is very often if they have to look in for 5 hours of footage because, you don't necessarily have, the very tight search criteria. So if you're looking at 5 hours or 10 hours of footage, very often you actually have to look at 10 hours of physical footage, right? Sometimes surveillance systems don't have fast forward buttons, which allow you to look through video really quickly. Right. So the entire process is actually very, very time consuming for somebody sitting and looking at that video. And the second piece is once you actually get the video, how do you transport it to the customer? If you have folks downloading that video on a USB stick and then mailing it to people or, downloading the video, uploading it to Google Cloud and then sending somebody a link. We, with Spot AI, our entire focus is to make that process as simple as possible, right? So firstly, can you use motion and AI-based search filters to reduce the search space? Okay, well, I'm looking for a car that showed up in one of these cameras. Can you filter video for me which only has cars? So, what we're able to do is just reduce the entire long timeline of video to just the part that has cars. Okay, I'm looking for a car that is actually black in color. Okay, great. We can, reduce that search space as well. And then we allow customers to actually scroll through the video really, really fast, right? How you have the sort of, as you scroll over a YouTube video, if you scroll over the timeline, you can actually see the video frames moving. We have a feature like that, which allows them to very quickly scan through the frames. And then with one click, they can share it to any phone number, any email address, and it can go directly to the customer. So that entire process that used to take people hours, with us, it just takes minutes. And what that allows businesses, particularly like car dealerships, to do is to be much more responsive to their customers, right? Because when you have a complaint, you're angry about it and you're not happy that somebody scratched your car. Getting a quick response to them with proof that they didn't do it is the best thing you can do for them at that point. So it just helps them dramatically improve the customer experience, but also avoid paying out that claim.
Now, just another example. Using that same example, is it easy can you magnify image? So if the customer says, you scratched my car, can you show the video of the car when it arrived and magnify that part of the car to show there was already a scratch here when you brought the car in, or just using that for example. Is that possible?
Absolutely. And what we find our dealership customers do is, when they put high resolution cameras around the entry to the service centers for exactly that purpose. And what folks were doing before we came along is whenever the new car would come in, they would take their phones and walk around the car and just take a video so they had proof that there was no scratches on the car. But now what we allow them to do is put a bunch of high resolution 4K cameras at the entryway to the service center. So what they're doing then is logging every single car coming in at all different angles. So the minute you have a customer making that complaint, you can very quickly go and pull up that video from that exact angle and prove to them that actually wasn't your fault.
And that's a better customer experience, because walking around with a camera as someone drives in is immediately an intimidatory situation where you think, well, hang on, this person is filming my car. I feel uncomfortable by this. Whereas if I'm just driven through a gantry, I'm oblivious to the fact that my car's being screened. And if there is a problem, we will deal with it. But in the main, if there's no problem, I don't have that feeling of someone's walked around my car with a camera because they don't trust me and I don't trust them. So I think it's a huge trust benefit element.
I could completely agree. And, what we find is there are so many of these opportunities, in the course of operations to reduce frictions for customers, right? This example of cameras on a service center exit is just one of them, right? I mean, let's talk about how long a customer is waiting in the lobby to get served, right? Am I waiting? Was I waiting for 2 minutes? Was I waiting for 5 minutes? Was I waiting for 10 minutes? So what we have some sales managers do is get alerts when they have a customer in the lobby so that they can then actually go out and get them, right? And then they look through footage to figure out how long was the customer waiting before they got attended to. Sometimes that takes a while, right? And this allows them to optimize that customer experience and, getting customers coming back to you for more and more business.
And even the customers who aren't being looked after in sequence, it's like, well, why was this customer missed 3 times when these other customers were served, and this particular customer, because they may not be assertive, were getting overrun and therefore having a bad customer experience. So it works in so many ways. I think it's fantastic technology.
Yeah, and it could be that what we also seen in the past with customers is there are some customer requests that take a while, so they're waiting. Why were they waiting? What types of requests have been taking longer than others, right? What can you do for the next customer to speed up that process, right? And in all these situations, and this has been the core thesis of the company, is that there is no better way to diagnose these problems than actually seeing what's going on, and video is the best way to do that. And it allows you to make decisions in environments where there is no other form of instrumentation to be able to figure out that there is a problem and figure out the solution.
Now, so can your intelligence work out the number of customers that have come into a showroom? And because that's, to me, is an ideal thing, is if you've done some advertising, did it increase the traffic in my showroom by 10%? And then also, when they come into the showroom, where did most of the customers go? What cars are they looking at? Is that possible to do?
Yeah, that is possible to do. It's something that we've been working on, right? Is, and we get this request from customers a lot, is can you give us object counts? Can you give us people counts? Can you tell us how many people are there in a given area, right? We were able to do that with people. We're able to do that with the vehicles. You can detect a zone. You can, mark a zone that you want to figure out, like, how many people were in that particular zone at any point of time. So those are all features that we use. And our goal is, can we make that really, really simple for the end user, right? Where they know exactly what they need to do. And the best part of the system is that all the stuff works out of the box. Once you plug in and you get your video in there, you don't have to you don't have to wait for more video to be recorded to actually get these insights. If I have a month of video, I can actually just query the system, right, in a very, very easy way, run a search based on whatever I'm looking for and get those insights retrospectively for all the video I have, which is a big advantage for customers.
Yeah, John, you're right on. You beat me to the question, because I was thinking on the back of the one of our high-ranking podcasts that we have is on activity in and out of showrooms, floor traffic, and dwell time, and the correlation between dwell time and gross margin. And even understanding when you've had an incentive or an advertising campaign, which vehicles are attracting the most attention and where a customer's staying. Like, they may look at something and then bounce off it, but what products attract people to stay? And from a showroom display, what's the most efficient? And then who are the most efficient people at dealing with those customers? Because how long does it take for the meet and greet to occur? Then how long does it take for the 6-position sell to be executed? And who's actually executing the 6-position sell properly? Because are they just opening the door and then going straight down to sit down and talk price, as opposed to let's go around and talk about the vehicle, go through the benefits, ask more questions. How long did this customer stay here before they decided to purchase the vehicle, or did they just leave and not purchase? So there's lots of elements here.
Exactly, and it goes to another piece of it, right? Like the big set of use cases around the service center, but there are also all these use cases on the sales floor itself, right? And then how do you train salespeople to do better and to be more successful, sell more customers, and make more money? So there are all these different use cases, and this is what gets us really excited about the business, is that there are just a ton of use cases for us to go after, right? And when we are a big part of our company is, or a big like a core philosophy is working backwards from the customer and making sure that we're always understanding what these customers are looking for, the problems they're trying to solve, and then how can we build that into a product as fast as possible. So as a company, we release we release features like regularly, like our new features almost every 2 weeks, because we're constantly trying to help customers unlock the value of video and use it for different and better things, and then run their businesses better.
So just a question for me is, if someone's interested in your product, firstly, how do they get in contact with you? And then secondly, do they just order the product online and then install it themselves, or do you have installers, or how does the system work?
No, that's a great question, and the way folks can get in touch with us is to go to our website, spot.ai, and fill up a form and book a meeting with us. It's just that simple. But to the second part of the question of how do you actually deploy it, a core part of our philosophy, and the way we think about it is, technology is only useful when it just works, right? We've built the product to be extremely easy to install and to use. And what happens when you do that is you have two things. One is that customers get value from it faster, which is really what we care about, right? And also customers start using it more and more and get more value from it over time. So, and the way we've built our product is the appliance is something that anybody has to have no technical expertise to install. They plug it in, they plug it into their existence. It just takes 2 steps, and it's a few-minute process to configure their cameras and get them on the app or on the dashboard. A vast majority of our customers self-install. But obviously, there are many that don't, and there we have a fully staffed out support team whose goal is to help you get set up and going as fast as possible.
If you can outline what other industries are using this and what are the outcomes that they're achieving from it, that'd be great to get an understanding, so we can see how that can apply into the auto industry as well. So
yeah, we work with 17 different industries and deployed at thousands of locations across all of them, and we find that the customers that are best using the product or are getting the most out of it are using it as a way to augment human performance, right? Which is true for technology in general, right? The way technology has been most useful to humanity has been when it can augment people's performance. If you think about PCs, you think about phones, right? It's all about how can you use it to make people more efficient. We find that customers are using the product in different industries in some really unique ways, right? A couple of ways that we think, like we see them using it is how can I improve, how efficient my operations are? So, for example, customers in manufacturing use the product in very interesting ways. They use it to actually plan production schedules and figure out where the bottlenecks are across their production processes to optimize them. Are if I'm producing a bunch of widgets, how fast am I producing them relative to how fast I'm loading them into a truck, right? If I'm loading a truck, am I loading it to full capacity, or am I leaving money on the table there? Customers also use it for improving safety protocols. We have customers in warehousing who use the product primarily, on the safety side, right? Are people following safety processes? Are they wearing hard hats? Are they operating the forklifts in a way that was safe? If there was a forklift incident and there was a collision between forklifts or with the person, why did that happen? And then using that information as a coaching opportunity for the rest of their organization. So safety and efficiency is another big theme that we see across all our verticals, and it's really all about making that video accessible to people and making it more useful to them.
Yeah, because that's quite interesting. Especially the big thing about warehousing is you're picking routes, and the time it takes for each picking order to have all your parts that need to be picked, picked every day. You need to have it at the front of the warehouse and the slower moving parts at the back end of the warehouse. So I can see just being able to measure all that and see where people are walking on their picking routes can make a huge difference in efficiency.
Absolutely. And then, over time, some of the use cases that customers have been talking to us about that we're working towards is how do you figure out different parts of the warehouse and how full they are, so that you can then optimize the picking routes to make sure that when customers, when warehouse workers are storing materials and storing boxes, right, where do they store it, and then how do you optimize warehouse utilization? So those are some of the other use cases that we see customers talking about that we're trying to work with them on.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because there's that augmentation of human behaviour and decision making that is the fundamental. Let's use the technology to make our work easier but more efficient and safer. And that whole coverage of, if there's a forklift incident, we've got all the data beforehand and all the information afterwards that can show what happened, what caused it. Was it human? Was it situational? Was it behavioural? All these elements can come into play, and then there's the evidence there, and then there's the training that can be done as a result of it. But there's the information is there. If there's any questions, it's all right, okay, this is what happened. Or if this person incorrectly lifted something and hurt their back, how were they lifting it? Oh, they weren't bending their knees. So therefore, here's a training process that we need to overcome that problem. And that works from a warehousing, works from a rectification, it works from even an entry in and out of a building. If the steps or the ramps aren't right, there's slippery surfaces or whatever. Here's evidence of how we can improve and make the right decisions to rectify and prevent the incidents, but also make it more easier and potentially identify barriers that people are not coming in because they're stopping people from coming in. Is there a clear path into the showroom? Is there a clear path into the service office, etc.? So there's lots of benefits to be gained from using the technology for sure. Awesome. Thanks for coming on the show. Now, I'm just keen to, hopefully I can summarise this and do justice to this technology, because I must admit, you've blown me away with, we've all seen video surveillance, and, cameras are everywhere. Since the 2000s, we've introduced cameras pretty much to every location. But I love the fact that your technology at Spot AI takes it to another level. So it's not just surveillance and observations, it's now using that information in a meaningful way. And I think you summarised it perfectly when you said this is taking video and using it to augment behaviour and augment process and improve efficiencies. So basically improving what we as humans do through observation, and then using AI to go, right, this is what we're seeing and this is how to improve it. So when we look at the cameras and having your software and your systems behind the whole mechanism means that you can identify efficiencies in both showrooms, in service departments, and in warehousing for parts and also vehicle storage. You can see where there are issues. You can record, there's a historical recording, but there's also the process improvement. So you can, and also there's the proactive nature of it where you can flag issues of, hey, this vehicle's been in this bay for too long. We need to identify something with that customer. We can also identify in the showrooms that these particular vehicles are getting more attention than these other ones. What are we doing about those? Because they're slower moving stock, the fast moving stock's got the activity. But you can also identify who who are the more efficient salespeople, because you can see their sales processes and identify if there's shortcuts that others are doing or things that the others are not doing that these people are doing to get benefit out of it. So it's not Big Brother. And I like the way that you talked about the as far as the data and the privacy of it. All this video is stored on site in the business. So it's not up in the cloud, and it's controlled, and all the different levels of delegation are there for the various operatives in the business. So dealer principal has the overarching control, but can delegate different areas to say the sales manager can look at the efficiency of their salespeople, the service manager can see the efficiencies of their service teams, plus also the vehicles coming in and out. And even there was a really good point that you raised with that service side of things. Having gantries with cameras and surveying the vehicles as they come in and out, it's not an intrusive way of, say, someone walking around with a camera taking photos of your car when you drive in. That, if you have a human there, you feel like there's a distrust of how this person is taking photos of my car even before I speak. So that's a poor customer experience. Whereas if you automate it with a gantry drive again, customers are oblivious to it. And if nothing ever happens, they'll never ever know that occurred. But it's a safety mechanism for them because they're protected, and it's a safety mechanism for the business because it's protected if the customer claims that there's some damage that was caused elsewhere and they're trying to claim it on the dealership. So there are lots and lots of benefits to the system. And I love the way, because you apply it across so many industries, but there really is a strong case to use it in the auto sector, whether it be in dealerships or in supply chain and logistics or any of the third parties that are part of this ecosystem. And really, I thank you for coming on and sharing these. And it's a real opener for me and hopefully, John, for our audience as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's been amazing, very interesting and fascinating. Thanks very much for joining us, Sud. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that. We are really excited about it as well, and always happy to talk more about it. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Had a great time. Thanks a lot, John. Thanks, Mark.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening today. Hopefully you got as much out of the episode with Sud as we did. It's amazing technology.
Yeah, if you like what you heard, please subscribe to us below. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. We're also available on iTunes and Spotify, and we have our own website, autocurrents.com.